I went to grad school straight out of undergrad, so I was a psych major, and I decided to go to grad school. I only went just because I panicked that I was going to have to go and get a job if I didn't go to grad school. Just was like, uh-oh, I'm going to apply. And I applied, which is a horrible way to go to grad school. So I took off to Cornell, and that was a bad choice too. I had two different offers that I was interested in, and I went with the one that everyone was impressed by rather than the one that fit me. So I was kind of making bad choices one after the other based on what others thought of me. So the program was fine, but it wasn't for me. And that's sort of my big mantra, is that you have to find the fit for who you actually are, your true self. Um, Otherwise, it's not going to work. It could be a great career path. It could be a great grad school. It could be what have you. But as if it's not the fit, then you're going to have a lot of problems and uncertainties and unhappiness and not feeling fulfilled and having no meaning and purpose. So I ended up taking that hard step of leaving my grad program. Right after finishing my master's, I said to them, I'm done. I'm walking away." And it was fully paid, fully
Wow.
funded Ivy League doctorate. Like my family was like, "Really?" And the people who didn't know me well thought I was crazy. But the people who did know me well knew it was the best decision I was making because I was not myself while I was there. I'm somebody who's very aware of how I'm feeling in the moment. So I'm highly introspective, and I think that's one of the tools I try to teach my students and clients. I do coaching as well. So clients, I try to teach them how to be self-reflective. Getting back to that touchstone of kind of quieting the mind and hearing what you're really thinking, not what everyone around you saying and what the media is saying you should be doing, but something that's deeper within you. Psychologically, there's clinical anxiety, there's clinical depression, but you can certainly have non-clinical versions of depression and anxiety that still really agitate you and torment you, and that often comes along with the quarter life crisis. So
Right.
I felt a lot of that kind of subclinical depression and anxiety, and not sleeping so well, and also high levels of confusion, just feeling like you're constantly questioning, what am
Yeah.
I doing with my life, where am I heading? And that seems like the recurring theme. Like Erickson said, when you're in one of these experiences of a crisis, he named it a crisis, you are actively searching for an answer to a particular question. And in the adolescent years, which have now stretched into the 20s, that particular question is, who am I and what am I doing? And so it keeps coming back to you, even if you're out having fun, you're going out partying, that question comes bouncing back into your mind whenever you have a still moment. And I believe that the only way to get to that answer is through a combination of introspection and action, not just one or the other. So if you just are sitting around thinking all the time, you're not going to come up with the running around doing all the time, you're not going to come up with an answer. So it's a combination of trying things out, so being very active in the world, and then reflecting on what you're trying out to figure out, is this really about me? Is this really resonating with my deeper sense? That I believe that reflection is the very first step, and then we move to action. So, for instance, if I'm going, take my example of going to grad school. I didn't really reflect first. I just applied and went first
Hmm.
because I just jumped right to the action. Now, if I had stopped and slowed down and really thought through, why am I going? Is this the right time in my life? What are my motivators? What are my goals beyond it? I wouldn't have taken that particular action. I might have instead gone out and gotten a job in psychology and then could have reflected on, how's that job feel, what's working for me, what's not, to keep tweaking it, because life is
Right.
about trial and error.
Right.
But it can only be about trial and error if you do both. One answer, too, is that as the lifespan has lengthened, we have more time to do this searching, so that's certainly played a role. And I think it is just a cultural norm that we've changed our understanding of how long that dependent period of our lives is allowed to last. In reality, this quarter life crisis stuff predates all the economic miseries. It was there. I came out of school when the economy was booming, and I could have had any job, like 15 jobs lined up. People who were doing horribly in my school had tons of jobs, and we were all going through the crises. So it's got nothing to do with economy. It's
Right.
really something internal. But I think it's all of that. If the social culture changed such that it was not acceptable to be searching in your 20s, then I think we would stop searching in our 20s. I don't think that means we'd be fulfilled and
Okay.
have meaningful lives, but we might just kind of be like, well, I can't do that. I'm going to get down to business. And then we'd have midlife crisis instead. What I think the answer is, I often tell my students to quiet the voices. So quiet the voices of everybody around you. You hear your professors in your head, your parents in your head, your friends in your head, everything that you've been exposed to all through your childhood and are constantly bombarded with. You've got to somehow find space to hear your own voice, because I think that's so often neglected. And that is something related to social media. When we're always on and checking 5 things at once, we're never going to hear our own voice. So I'm a big proponent of quieting everything down and doing that through journaling, through meditation, through exercise, whatever means it is that gets you back to that still place within you. And that's the reflection part, right?
Right.
And then based on that reflection, doing something in the world that makes sense and making the time to come back to even and reflect again. When our true self aligns with the work we're doing, that's when we feel most of meaning and purpose. This doesn't necessarily mean that we are elated all the time. We feel the full range of emotions still in that state, but we feel like there's a reason for what we're doing.